We finally get the news that we're going to be cutting rates in 2024, and today should be a great day for the market, but for some reason we're running into a bit of a problem, and this isn't good. Welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on my video. I really appreciate it. And on this channel, we do like to do some technical analysis for the SPY Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, and NVDA. And right now I'm saying this isn't good overall because we only have a little bit more upside, but we have a whole lot of possible downside. The first thing on today's episode I wanted to talk about was my thumbnail, and my thumbnail was what you're seeing right in front of you. It was the Qs, and overall my thing with this was this isn't good because we only have a little more upside before those sellers can really step back in, just like we touched over here, which gave us that consolidation for quite some time. That can happen again, and why would you want to invest in this area? And that's overall why I'm saying this isn't a good place to be buying. You would rather be patient, which is a very important thing to be a good trader, is to learn how to be patient and look for those pullbacks, because it really looks like even though we got that good news, we're already starting to struggle the next day. I do have the daily range for the Qs, so stick around for that. But on the SPY here, I couldn't get that because the implied volatility data was kind of messed up on my computer. So I'll see if I can fix that, and maybe I'll release it out on my Patreon tonight. But as of right now, we can see that we got a little excited as of today, and we're starting to see some struggling come in. So if this is supposed to be such a bullish moment, then why aren't we just exploding higher and completely going even more parabolic? And I think this is where we can bring up something from the live stream that we did yesterday, and I might be doing a live stream at the end of tomorrow, so kind of put it in the comments if you'd like to see that, but I might do it tomorrow if I have some time. But the overall thing we were talking about was someone brought up, well, you got the good news. You got the news that you were expecting, and then what now? Like, what makes this go higher? And that's a very good point to bring up, because all of this right in here was all based on the fact that they were going to pivot. We were going to see that cutting come in 2024. They got that news, but now that they have that news, there's no reason to go higher. And in fact, Jerome Powell is only giving 75 basis points, which right now at this price, we're actually pricing in something around, 150 basis points. So that just means that that will need to be priced into the market, and we could see that pullback come to fruition. It is very good to be patient in this market, but breaking this down, you can see we're outside of the monthly and we're outside of the weekly, which is just a good sign to you. Hey, be a little bit cautious in this area, because sure, from this area, when you get outside of it, sometimes you do have that chance of that, 2 standard deviation move, because this is a bell curve and 68% of the time you'll land in here, but you can see some crazier things happen outside of here. But 68% of the time when we do get out of this, we actually do like to come back and close back within this range by the end of the month. So that's something to keep in mind, especially for tomorrow, considering we have options expiration and we're outside of that weekly expected move. The last thing on the daily I wanted to talk about was the Bollinger Bands. You see that these are getting a little bit wider at this point, right? We started to break to the upside, so we're starting to spread out a little bit. And these are tight, and they go from contraction to expansion, right? So we can see how these volatile moves can come in, right? We get a swing up. Now this Bollinger Band is starting to go down a little bit, which means we could get another swing down, and then we could just test the bottom of that. We could test the top of that, and you could see that volatility come in very soon. So this is overall what I wanted to point out with the daily chart, right, is just that since these Bollinger Bands are now wide, we actually can see bigger swings in the market. I'm going to switch over to the Qs, and I wanted to say we could go into the shorter time frames, but really all you're going to see is a bunch of very, very overbought charts, and you're going to see how we do get a ton of those divergences. And I would just tell you to pay attention for when those divergences actually start that negative trend, get into that negative territory on the MACD. But on the Qs here, we can see the Qs actually went a little bit negative today, giving some kind of maybe indecision at this point, which is kind of interesting because the news was so good yesterday. So we have to pay attention to this. These Bollinger Bands are spread out, so we can see bigger swings, right? We could come all the way down and test the bottom of that Bollinger Band as some kind of pullback at this point. You're not necessarily outside of the monthly, but as of tomorrow, you will be you'll be opening up outside of the weekly expected move, which is sitting right there at 477. Okay, so we want to pay attention to that. This looks like it could be some kind of reversal, but it's really not going to be a reversal until we get that full-fledged confirmation and really start to break down from this level. Break down from this level, we would actually have that divergence, not necessarily on the SPY, but we would have it on the Qs, and we can see that that 50s land right near that monthly expected move, the bottom of that. So it is very common for us to come and touch one of these expected moves, right? And then we actually can see this fully turn around like Apple's done for a couple weeks now on its weekly. And we can see that come all the way down to a price point of 373.49 before the month is over. But the overall point to this whole video, if we want to do some kind of main takeaway right here, is the only real upside you have is pretty limited, right? We're overbought. We can't push too much higher. People are going to hit the sell button eventually. And the overall downside here is, well, we could go completely retest that flag that we broke out of, right? We could get a complete retest of this before we actually want to head higher. And this is where it pays to be patient. The daily expected move up here. So we do have 406.78 to the upside for the Qs, and then we actually have a flat number of 400 for the Qs as well to the downside on the daily expected move for tomorrow. So be looking out for those, because intraday we could come up and tag this, test this high, and then we could actually end the day completely down. Or if we do want to get crazy because there's options expiration, we could see a move out of this range and start to go ballistic one way or the other. Apple looks like it's starting to struggle getting an indecision day as well. So we see that indecision to come in, and where did Apple start to run into trouble? Right around that weekly expected move, right around that price point of 200. It actually went to a price point of 199.62, and so that's just about 40 cents off of the actual expected move for the week, which is pretty nice, because if you have these weekly expected moves, you can use this as a profit-taking tool and take some money off the table once we hit those ranges. Now you'll notice that we are outside of those Bollinger Bands. This one's starting to go up, but this one's remaining flat. Okay, so it is potential for us to come down and test this area, which if Apple didn't want to break down too low over the next couple weeks, if we do get some kind of pullback from here and then we want to bounce higher, you know, Apple does like to do this thing where it breaks out of a very important zone and then it touches the inside that zone one more time and then it explodes. So we're going to really pay attention to that. But right now you do have that divergence on a daily MACD, and I don't mess around with a daily divergence on the MACD, and it's on the RSI down here at the same exact time. If we're actually going to head lower in Apple, because the upside for this week looks like we're, you know, as high as we can really go is that 200. I don't think we're going to see some ballistic move upward as of this week. So we can talk about the bullish cases for next week once we see what happens on Friday. But really, if this wants to head lower, I see this area here was pretty important for us to extend, right? So what I want to do is see if we're able to get price to come all the way back down in that area and see some kind of handle and break down to further levels. So what we can pay attention to on these shorter time frames, and we're just going to point it out on Apple here, is if we actually start to go into negative territory, start that negative trend, which let's switch over to an hourly so we can really see this. And you'll just see how once we do get into negative territory, we start to get a lower low. But because we just rebound and get back into positive, we see that positive trend continue. So the overall reason that we've seen this go up for so long is because look how long we were able to hold in that positive territory. And the only dip down into negative was for a short period of time. So if you really want this to reverse, you need this to hold down in that negative territory. And you got to be very patient in a market like this for that to actually happen. Now on Amazon, I'm going to give you a thumbs up, big pat on the back. So thank you so much if you are subscribed and you found this information helpful, because what we were paying attention to was this little area that it's been trapped in, right? It's been trapped in a little bit of a range back and forth. And what we were saying was, if it wants to explode higher, look for that fading throughout the week. If this fades by Friday and lands back within this zone, it's actually a good sign that we might actually want to go the other way. And the first move was actually some kind of trap. The most important thing when looking at a lot of these stocks is going to be the fact that they did not cross on this MACD. If they crossed on this MACD, I feel like we can see that bullishness come in. But right now, we're not getting too bullish on Amazon. We're not getting too bearish on Amazon because we're still tight with these Bollinger Bands, and we haven't gotten that clear direction, right? We almost got it today, but then it fades off. So really look for that throughout the week. And then to the other side, we want to see if it's able to close on lower levels and then maybe even bust below this 50-day moving average to really start that negative trend on the shorter time frames. Amazon, we see a similar story, right? We see lower high after lower high for the past few months. And we can just notice the one point where it did dip into negative territory. What did you see? Well, you got a low and you got a lower low. So you can see how getting into that negative territory really starts that negative trend. So if we do get a confirmed break of this little zone we've been in for quite some time, then we could actually head into negative territory. And I want this thing to get in deep into negative territory and remain there in order to keep that negative trend. A little bit different on the day was Tesla. Tesla's been different pretty much in every video, right? So when the whole market was going up, Tesla was going down, then it starts to skyrocket up. So great trade if you found this right around that weekly expected move. And thank you so much if you are a part of my Patreon. I really appreciate it. And I enjoy that you guys are using it in all different ways. So that's really cool. We noticed that these Bollinger Bands are tight and you're stuck within a range. So this really could go either way. And we're looking for that confirmation up or down. So we did get that confirmation to the upside at this point. The only problem here is we've seen other stocks been fading down and making some downward moves. So we may even pull up some stocks today that we don't normally pay attention to. But the overall thing with Tesla here was we were saying, hey, this could break out to the upside, but look for the end of the week if this starts to fade back within this zone. If this fades back within this zone by the end of the week, then that could be a good sign that this was just some kind of fake out and we're actually going to head to lower levels, kind of like Amazon. And I'll talk about this today again, just the difference between Tesla, where it's at with its MACD is much closer to that negative territory. So you do have the potential in Tesla, if we do get a bigger pullback at the end of the year here, we actually could see some kind of divergence at this level. So I do have that 190.10 marked in case we get that divergence, but I'm really still leaning towards some kind of higher low. Again, maybe somewhere around this level, right? So right at that 207.42, this very important zone in here, I feel like could be a great spot for Tesla to hold up. NVIDIA, as of right now, you get a thumbs up and a pat on the back because we were talking about how today would be very telling whether or not this MACD is going to cross. You can see that MACD is well within the positive territory. And if we do get that to cross, then the momentum may just take us up above this high and set up a new all-time high for NVIDIA. So we really need to pay attention to this as we're not seeing that cross today. And then we'll have to pay attention to this again as of tomorrow. But for now, we can give ourselves that thumbs up. So thank you so much if you're subscribed and you did listen to that, because right now you just need to pay attention to tomorrow and see if this is actually going to break down or it is going to cross on this MACD and maybe give us another leg higher on NVIDIA. One thing I would say with that, because I am paying attention to this big ABC pattern, is, you know, if this thing goes green early on in the day, I would be very cautious at this point. You have a lot of charts that are very overbought. And if this actually does go green early on in the day and you see this crossed, it could uncross by the end of the day. So this actually could come down by the end of the day and fake you out within a few hours. Now, this is where I did want to talk about a few other stocks because they look very different, right? So we're actually seeing stocks break down from this level and not cross and even reject the crossing, right? When it starts to really tilt down, that is a rejection of the crossing. And we see that these Bollinger Bands are tight. If Microsoft here wants to take out this low, it's going to probably play out this ABC pattern right around that 50-day moving average, which just tells you pay attention to other stocks and see what they look like, because they can be, you know, telling you things that the overall market is not. Right now, if you're paying attention to the market, it kind of says, hey, we're going to the moon. We might consolidate and go further to the moon. But if you look at the individual stocks, Microsoft is telling you it may want to take out this low and head a little bit lower. Google, if everything was so bullish with yesterday, then why is Google actually breaking out of its consolidation and even closing outside of it? So this hasn't confirmed to the downside, but if it takes out this low, you're probably heading directly for that 200-day moving average. We'll see from there. Maybe that's all the pullback it gets. Maybe this was some kind of fake out though, and we want to go to the other level. So tomorrow is going to be very telling, but I'm just wanting to show you guys these other stocks to show you how, you know, the SPY and the Qs are still like this. Now we're a little indecision, but other stocks are actually moving like that. Meta was very close to getting that confirmation of another leg higher in this move. The only problem was it didn't cross, right? It didn't cross. It actually flattened out. And if this actually closes a little bit lower, you'd be actually maybe even closing below every moving average, and you might want to head towards that 200 pretty quick. So that's overall why I'm just kind of showing you guys a bunch of these stocks, just to show you, hey, a lot of these are not confirming right now an upward move, even though the SPY and the Qs are heading higher or moving a little bit sideways at this point. Now, AMD, I just wanted to show you guys the Bollinger Bands on AMD just because it's so overbought that sometimes you can get another reaction. It's kind of like the pendulum swinging. Once the ball goes this way, once it comes back, it goes the other way. So this Bollinger Band getting spread out a little bit more, not necessarily just remaining flat, tells me that this thing can get pretty volatile and we actually could head down to this zone down in here I have marked. I have this little point here of 108.12 marked, which is actually going to be sitting right around that 200-day moving average. So it's good to look at all these different stocks and see, how they're performing on the day. When we are seeing another green day in the SPY, you want to see, okay, AMD was overbought and it's coming down. This was supposed to be good news and go up. We're seeing other stocks want to make a second leg lower in an ABC pattern down. So we just really need to pay attention to those types of things. And you even have Apple that has a daily divergence on the MACD and the RSI at the same time. Holy crap, the 10-year yield closing below the 200-day moving average. That was pretty unexpected, but we do have this little trend line here that we can bounce off of. Now, overall with these yields that we're going to talk about maybe a little bit on Saturday is if these yields are actually heading lower, then why are stocks not liking that? Stocks should really like when these yields are heading lower. And that's what we're going to talk about on Saturday a little bit. Get into the fact that actually when the Fed starts cutting rates, we start pricing in that recession. And you can just see that reaction from TLT, right? Closing above the 200-day moving average. Now it is outside of its weekly expected move, the top side of that. And we left behind a gap right there. Now we do use that top of that weekly, kind of like the Qs did. The Qs actually came down into its weekly expected move and used it as some support to remain higher and get that indecision as of today. But TLT is just closing at the high of every day the past 2 days. So that's something to pay attention to, but we are outside of that weekly range. So we could see this actually close back within this range by tomorrow. And the VIX is even tighter on its Bollinger Bands, and as of today, you're getting a green bar. So this actually can mean some pretty big things. We were talking about this level of 12.12, waiting for it to get tested before we see some volatility come in, and it really looks like, I've been saying it for a couple days for this week, but it looks like volatility is going to come into this market very rapidly. Couple of final things I wanted to point out was right now I'm looking at US oil, and as you can see, we're actually bottoming out in oil, and this thing looks like it's about to get some kind of pop. So it did close above that 9-day moving average. If we get another closing, this MACD is going to cross, and you're going to be confirming this subtle divergence here on the MACD, and you're going to be confirming that on the RSI as well. So right now it's time to be a little bit cautious, but it looks like US oil might be giving us a little bit of a good trade setup for right now. Just looked at US oil and we can see that the dollar is actually crossing on its MACD, and we are overall coming into a trend line here and looking like we're about to set up some kind of divergence. Okay, so some kind of divergence is formed, and that would be proven here on the RSI as well. So we do have that divergence. It's not the biggest divergence in the world, but you can see it there, and we don't play around with those daily divergences. This thing can go all the way back up to 105.65 in the very near future. If we do get up to this 105 price point, right, if we get up there, is the fact that if the dollar starts to see strength, it actually has a negative correlation with the market. So we will actually see the market start to head to lower levels if the dollar catches a bid at this level. So the main takeaway for this video is this a good time to buy? And that's where I said this isn't good. This is not a good time to buy because we need to be patient and see some kind of pullback as we are extremely, extremely overbought. I guarantee you, if you are patient with the market, you are going to do much better over time. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Patreon, if you want to donate to the channel, all that's down in the description below. I wish you all the luck in the world tomorrow, and maybe I'll even go live. Peace.